Baruch haba, welcome. We have an aliya of the day, aliya yomi today, which have been aliya shavua lately, aliya of the week, but time. So maybe after a few years we have them all. So this week's Torah portion is Shemini, and today we're going to go through the first aliya from that Torah portion. Okay, and this is open mic. Feel free, those of you who are present, to ask questions. Those of you who are not present, do not ask questions because you're not present. Okay, it was funny to me. Let's get into it. The first aliyah can be found in the book of Leviticus. That's Vayikra, chapter 9, verse 1 through 16. PowerPoint's considering showing you the next slide. It's thinking about it. I've got an hourglass, so sit tight. I really like this background picture with the fire, the smoke, the cloud, the Shekhinah. All right, here we go. So you should all be able to see the Hebrew text now. This is Leviticus chapter 9, verses 1 through 5 on the screen. And let me do a laser pointer. Some of you have mentioned it's hard to follow, so hopefully this will help a little bit. Well, always in post-processing, before I put it out on the internet, we've got a nice circle highlight will follow all the words. But for now, we have a little baby one. So verse Aleph, verse 1 says, Vayhi bayom hashmini qara Moshe le'acharon ulevanayv. We have our etnachta, so we'll stop there. So of course, yehi, means and it will be. Vayhi, and it came to pass, or and it was, or one of these other standard introductions. Bayom Hashemini. Okay, who knows what this means? What's bayom? Bayom. You can either type it or mention it.
In the day?
That's right. In the day. Very good. Because day is hayom, and this is ba. And we have the footprint there, so it's in the day. And now we're going to get an adjective. Which one? Hashemini. Who knows what that is? Hashemini.
The eighth.
Very good. The eighth day. In the eighth day. That's right. So in the eighth day, in English it sounds better to say on the eighth day. Qara Moshe. What's that mean? Qara Moshe.
He called Moses. He called Moses.
That makes it sound like Moses is the object. Make it sound better in English, please. What's really happening?
Moses called?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yep, good.
Moses called.
So Moses called. Whom did he call? Leharon ulevanayv.
Sons of Aaron.
All right.
To Aaron.
Yes.
And to his sons.
Yes, good. To Aaron and to his sons. Okay. Now let's jump down here. Next line. Oh, hold on. That's cut off on my TV screen there. Let me. Okay, it's ooh. All right. Uleziknei Yisrael. Okay, the end of the verse. Uleziknei Yisrael. What's that mean?
And to the elders of Israel.
Very good. Construct chain.
And to the elders of Israel.
Very good. Construct chain. Everybody notice he said the because Yisrael is definite, so it makes the whole chain definite. And to the elders of Israel. So qara, literally it means called, but oftentimes it means something, especially syntactically, if it's followed with a lamed, it means something more like summoned, right? So, this is kind of a judicial proceeding. Moshe is in charge. He's like the top judge, and he's over the priesthood. He's going to tell the priest what to do. So Moshe summoned Aaron and his children, his sons rather, and the elders of Israel, right? Verse Beit. Vayomer el Aharon. Okay, let's just take it chunk by chunk. What's that mean?
And he said unto Aharon.
Great. And now we have quotes. Kach lecha egel ben bakar lechata'at ve'ayil le'olah tamimim. Right, and we'll stop there with our etnachta. So this is what he's saying. Kach. Who knows this verb? Kach.
Imperative.
Nice.
Rabbi, it's from the word
Oh, your audio's
self.
your audio's breaking up a bit, but it sounded like you got it right. Imperative from the verb lakach. Okay, didn't really draw the lamed very nicely on my screen there. But imagine that's a lamed. Lakach. So that's right. So command form. Take lecha for yourself and egel. Who knows what an egel is without looking at a Bible translation? Egel.
Rabbi, isa calf. Calf.
What's that?
Calf.
What about cough?
Ben, the son of the cattle. The literal one.
Oh, I missed. I'm sorry. I think our audio. I think our audio is breaking up a bit there. Try again. Say it again. I just didn't hear.
A calf, a year old, or
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, very
the
good.
son of the cattle.
Yeah, right. That's right. Good. Yep, it's a calf. Yep, it's a young bull, something like this. Yep. So Egel, Ben Bakar. That's right. The part we didn't read yet is literally son of a bovid, right? So the chata'at. Okay, for a chata'at. What is a chata'at with a dagesh in the tet? What's that mean?
Purification.
Yes, that's right.
Offering.
That's right. For a purification offering. Very good. And by the way, I had this comment up above regarding regarding Aaron and his sons. Bekhor Shor comments in the Mikol Gedot that this is to inaugurate them into the cahunah, into the priesthood, right? So that's why they have been summoned. Okay. So they're taking it as a chata'at, which you're exactly right, a purification offering, from the verb chite, to purify, oftentimes translated sin offering, which isn't exactly the right nuance here. The ayil olah temimim. Okay, what's an ayil? Ayil.
Ram or goat.
Yeah, ram. Ram is better. Yep, a ram. Olah. What's an olah?
Ascend.
Burnt offering.
Full burnt offering.
Right, a whole burnt offering. And you're right. The reason it's called that is because it's from the verb to ascend, right? This one, you don't eat any of it. You burn it all up. It all goes up to Hashem. And so that's why we call it a whole burnt offering or a fully burnt offering, because it all olahs, it all goes up. Temimim. What's this word mean? This is the same adjective.
Clean.
Okay, that's good. Zakah is usually more like clean. It can have that nuance.
Without
yes, that's right. Unblemished, without spot. Yeah, correct. And this is the same adjective which is used to refer to our ancestor Yaakov Avinu before he had the experience messing with the angel. I'm just going to mute. Someone has some traffic in the background there that's bothering me. Okay. Still feel free to speak out. I just did a temporary mute of all the mics. So we're told that Yaakov was when we hear about Esau, we hear he was a hunter, he's out in the fields, etc. So the Torah is giving us a little bit of a hint that Esau was a bad man. Since there's only two hunters mentioned in the Bible, and the entire Bible is being hunters. One of them is Nimrod, and the other one is Esau, right? So it's not it's like a hint about his character traits. And the character trait we're told about Yaakov is that he was an ish tam. He was an unblemished man, right? He's a good guy, all right? Not a cheater, not any of these other things that the Goyim traditions have through anti-Semitism have attributed to him. But the text says he was an ish tam, right? He was without blemish, all right? V'hakayv lifnei Adonai. What's hakayv? What's that mean? You can activate your mic and talk. I just did a mute all before to stop the traffic noise.
Offer.
Okay, it's kind of like to offer. That is what's happening. What's that?
Qarav is from the root word qarav.
Yes.
Rabbi?
Okay.
Qarav.
Yes. And what does qarav mean? What's the root mean?
Hiphil. Is it hiphil?
Yes, it's
Close to
hiphil.
draw near.
That's right. So qarav is to draw near,
Close to draw
right? To approach rather. And you're right. This is a hiphil form. So it's to cause to draw near, right? And so you recognize the hey, right? The preformative hey. That's how you know. Remember, we had this lesson on Yom Rishon. That's why it's hiphil, right? That shows us it's hiphil. The causative form, to cause to approach. And who remembers what this really means in the priestly text? the nuance of this word when we're dealing with offerings? It means to
To
present.
draw near to God.
You're right. That is happening. That imagery is all happening. And you can talk about this in your sermons or lessons or whatever that you want to share with others. You can include that imagery. It'll be interesting for them to know that that's what's happening. But the nuanced translation is to present, right? Like to present an offering, right? So that's how we translate it here in this type of. Because remember, the words I've given you many examples before in Hebrew, how you can have a word with a meaning, but the nuance is heavily influenced by the context, right? And so here, the priestly writers, the priestly literature rather, the context is offerings, right? And so you're causing the offering to draw near, to come near, which is really to present it. They're presenting it before Hashem. Yeah. So very good. Okay. So vehaklev lifnei Adonai, before Adonai. You guys know that. All right. Gimel, verse 3. Vel b'nei Yisrael tedaber le'amor. It's quite straightforward. Who wants to just translate that whole block? Just jump out with it. Vel b'nei Yisrael tedaber le'amor. What's that mean?
And unto the children of Israel, you will say, ted, you will say,
You'll speak is better. You'll speak.
you will speak, no, you will speak,
Speak.
Le'amor,
to say or saying,
saying. Good.
to
Yeah.
say
Yep.
or saying,
You're right. It literally is to say, but that sounds weird in English. So we end
to
up
say,
usually saying saying.
yeah.
Yeah. Good. So please pay attention to the nuanced difference between daber and amar. In English, we've lost it really. To say to speak or to say, what's the difference? I mean, you as a native speaker, I'm telling you, I don't know what the difference really is in English. It doesn't sound any different to me. It almost just sounds like a style choice. But the sages teach us that in Hebrew, when you have these two words, davar, pardon me, diber, it's only davar in the Psalm sometimes. Diber is a harsher, a stronger meaning to it. Usually when there's a mitzvah involved or something like this, right? And amar is a bit softer, right? So there's that nuance according to Chazal. So now unto the Bnei Israel, you shall speak, right? So he's giving him a command. Remember we said last time that in the imperfect, this is another way to give a command. You could put it as kach lecha, take for yourself. That's an actual imperative command form, or you can put it in the imperfect. Tedaber, you will speak, you shall speak, something like that, right? Like tishmor et yom hashavat, you shall keep. Yes. Go ahead,
Can I ask question?
please.
So the word davar in a plural form is devarim. So it says in Shemot, Perek Kaf 20, ve'eleha devarim. These are the words.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I see the Strong's words, it can also mean thing. So does it mean that the word we need to every time we speak, we need to do it.
Okay.
We need to apply what we said.
Okay, so let me comment on that. Okay, so first of all, it's a nice question. Second of all, never use strongs. All right. So for your definitions,
Okay.
Okay, yeah, you're much better than that. Your knowledge level is pretty high, and so I don't want you to waste your time investigating by using Strongs. All right. So please use another resource. The only thing Strongs is good for is for locating the unique ID of a word that's used by software programs or Strongs. Like if you're using it to find it in another lexicon, right? But you guys can read Hebrew, so you don't need that. You can actually look directly in the lexicon. Or if you're using Blue Letter Bible or one of these other services, when it shows you the Strong's definition, I think you weren't here when I shared about this. Please click through. Just click the link to get to the next page where you'll get a deeper definition that is not Strong's. And then you scroll down. Maybe I'll just show this. This is worth showing, I think, for folks, because maybe not now. Maybe not now. I'll show you sometime, or ask someone else in the group to show you. Blue Letter Bible. It's a decent resource. So you click on the Strong's definition. It takes you to another page. Scroll down near the bottom, and you'll see the Gesenius lexicon entry. It's like it'll be a photograph from the lexicon. That's the definition you go with. Okay, you go with that one, please. So now regarding its meaning as word or thing, that's totally true. Davar can mean word. It can mean thing. It can mean the matter, the affair, not like an affair in a wicked sense, but like the affair is in the matter, right? What it was about. it can mean a commandment, depending on context. It can actually mean a command, right? And this is where we see that the sages derive that medaber has a stronger sense to it behind it than just amar, than just saying something, right? So that's why. In fact, even the Ten Commandments that you reference, which is the passage you're referencing, even there, we call it traditionally the Aseret Debarot, right? Like the 10 utterances or the 10 commandments, right? Debarot. It's from a feminine form of davar, like Deborah, right? So you can actually infer that it does mean something stronger than just word. Now, to take it a step further and say there are things to be done, etc., from that, that's correct, but I don't know that you can get there etymologically, right? I don't know that you can say because this word can mean it's a thing and a thing is something to be done. Not really, because the word davar, when it's used to mean thing, it can actually mean a very physical thing, right? It could actually just be a something, like something you can touch, right? Like kol hadavarim ale, all these things, bamakom hazeh, in this place, right? They will be taken away to Babylon, etc., right? Or it can mean in a much more abstract sense, like the things which I have taught you, and that's what it is in this case. But you're very right. The mitzvot are to be done, right? Not just to be philosophized over it. But did that answer your question, or do you have a follow up to that you'd like? I cannot impress strongly enough to avoid Strong's concordance for definitions. It's almost as bad in the Greek as it is in the Hebrew. So just it's not his fault, right? I mean, he's in the 1800s. The scholarship was weak, and this guy, he's assembling an entire concordance of the native languages himself. So he really did a great service for opening up these tools, right, to the masses. But we're in the computer age now. We've long past bypassed his assumptions about certain translations of words, and oftentimes he reverse kind of engineered the meanings, looking at King James and stuff like that. Okay. Don't be embarrassed. A lot of people they're stuck on Strong's at first, and they don't realize there's so much better out there. Okay. Okay, great. Oh, I see.
Okay.
I see you
Okay,
wrote
Tada.
Toda. I
Thank
see.
you.
Yes, Gesenius is infinitely better than Strong's. Gesenius is still a bit dated, right? Because Wilhelm Gesenius, he was a great German Orientalist, which means he knew many Middle Eastern languages, right? And I mean, just wonderful. He wrote the classical the Gesenius grammar, with the GKC, which scholars still reference to this day in making arguments about the meaning of texts. The the only weakness, just so that you would be aware of it, is but it's orders of magnitude better than Strong's. I mean, Strong's is wrong. I'll just call it wrong. Whereas Gesenius is not wrong. There might be a nuance that he's missing, right? Or on some of the hapax legomemna, like the words that only occur one time, there might be some issues and some difficulty figuring it out, or other things like that. But it's a very, very good lexicon. I used it for years. It's what my rabbi recommended to me to use when I was younger, right? So, for one, it's out of copyright, so you can get free copies or rather cheap copies. That's why it's online. But Gesenius was unaware of the language Ugaritic because it was not discovered in Syria until 1929, when a farmer his foot went through a hole in the ground, and then they excavated and they found the lost city of Ugarit. And since Ugaritic is the closest known language in the world to Biblical Hebrew, much closer than Aramaic, which we used to think Aramaic was the closest language, it has just provided a treasure trove of knowledge about the meaning of Hebrew words. In fact, many scholars, including, he's becoming famous here in the Philippines now because his smaller book, Supernatural, has been translated into Tagalog. But my Ugaritic teacher, Dr. Michael Heiser, he has pointed out that, in his belief, the discovery at Ugarit was much more beneficial to biblical studies than the findings of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, so as far as understanding what Hebrew means, so that's something that did not happen in Gesenius's day. So he doesn't have that information. He'll put in stuff from Old Southern Arabic, like classical Arabic. He'll reference Ethiopic. He'll reference even the Greek translation to Septuagint. They do this way. He'll reference Persian sometimes, like Farsi, and he's just an amazing linguist. And so it's still a very, very good tool, especially if you're talking about free tools. Yeah. But if you get the budget for it, it's better to go with one of the more modern lexicons, which incorporates the Ugaritic findings. Yeah. Okay. Nice questions and comments. Anything else before we go on? All right. Okay, so sayings. So now unto the Bnei Israel, you shall speak to them, saying, here's the quotes, Kechu se'il izim lechata'at ve'egel v'cheves b'nei shama temimim le'olah. So kechu, again, you know it's from lakach, right? The lamed fell away. It's the imperative form in the plural. And maybe the computer will draw it, maybe it won't. I drew a lamed there. Take a se'il izim, right? So this is take a he-goat from the goats, or of the goats. The chata'at, for a purification offering. And just a quick reminder, folks, the reason we translate this purification offering and not as sin offering is due to the wonderful scholarship of Jacob Milgrom, who is pretty well known as one of the foremost experts of the vocabulary of Leviticus. And I have the commentary from him that's in the Yale Anchor series. And I learned volumes from that a few years back. Just very, very, very amazing points he makes. And I had noticed before that it was strange that this is from the PIEL, that's got the dot, and he drills into this. He says, look, to sin is chata. So a sin offering really would be chata'at without the dagesh, right? It'd be a noun derived from the call verb, right? This is derived from the PIEL verb. And chite, with the dagesh inside, means to purify. Chata is to sin or to miss. Chite is to purify. So this is a purification offering. And this answered a question that I had before. It used to bother me. For example, why does a Nazarite, if somebody dies in his household, why does he have to bring a sin offering to the Lord? Why sin offering? What sin did he do? He didn't sin. Someone died upstairs. How's that his fault, right? But understanding the nuance of this word and the way the derivation works, it's not a sin offering. It's a purification offering. He has to be purified from the contamination with the corpse. So that's a good thing. All right, so continuing on. Okay. And then egel, right? Like brother was saying before, it's a young bull, vacheves, and this is like a yearling sheep. Bnei shana, literally sons of shana, a year, right? So that's a yearling. Although the word keves by itself usually means a yearling. Temimim, they're blameless, right? They're like Jacob, our ancestor, was. Okay. Olah, for an offering, a whole burnt offering. Verse Dalet. Veshovayil l'shlamim lizboach lifnei Adonai omimcha belulah v'shaman. Stop there with our etnachta. Don't get on to me if you like to call it etnach, atnach, whatever your tradition says, that's fine. Okay. So let's look here. Back up. The shor v'ayil. Shor, who knows what shor means? Shor. So the animal.
Ox.
What's that?
An ox, Rabbi?
Yeah, ox, correct. Yeah, that's right.
Ox.
That's right. It's an ox. Yep. And then ayil is a ram. Lishlamim. Who knows what this word is? Lishlamim. This is a kind of offering.
That's from shalem, from shalom, or
Yes.
peace.
It is related to that word.
Fellowship, community, Rabbi?
Yes,
Community.
that's right. That's right. Exactly. Very good. Shelamim is from the word shelem. That's a singular form. Shelem. So shelem, you'll notice, you're right. There is a relationship in the root to shalom, but they're different words. Shelem is a noun, and shalom is a noun, right? They're both from the same root. The root, shalom, means to complete something, right? To complete something. So the idea is, you've probably heard talk about numbers of completion and this kind of stuff, right? So when something is complete in the Hebraic mindset, it's perfect, right? For example, the altar is to be built with avanim shelemot, right? It's to be built with unhewn stones. And so there's this idea that they're complete, right? They're shelamim. And even shelema is an unhewn stone. Even, by the way, it just happens to be feminine, if you're wondering why the adjective is weird. So now shelema is not exactly the same word as shalom. right? Like when we ask for a healing, we say, Tenna, please give, et lano, to us, refuah shelema, give to us a complete healing, right? And it's not exactly the same thing as asking for a perfect healing, but you can see the nuance is very close. To be complete, it's almost the same thing as to be perfect, right? Perhaps you can take it a step further. If you're asking for a perfect healing, you might be asking for even beyond what you're asking for, right? Like if there's any irregularity in the cells and you have your red blood cells are off a little bit in oxygenation from, maybe you're really asking for all of it to be like Adam Rishon was, like the first man when he's created. But we're not asking for that. We're asking for rafuot shelemot, right? Complete healings, i.e., complete from the sickness. Okay? And this root shalom, it's actually a really good root to know because if you put it in the PIEL, the intense meaning is to pay back. To pay back. Like, again, you're trying to make things complete again. So if you borrow money from someone, you can shilem that person. You can make them complete. Oh gosh, I just realized. I think in English, even gangsters talk this way. Like criminals talk this way about being made whole, right? Like if someone from a mafia type organization goes to prison, then the other guys tell them, "Don't worry, you're going to be made whole," which means they're going to pay for your family, your kids are going to be fed as long as you don't talk when you're in prison, right? So even other languages have this idea of completeness being, something somehow related to the perfect situation. So shelem, it's not from shalom, but the roots, it goes back to the same root, the shin, lamed, mem. Oh, by the way, shilem, it can also mean to avenge someone, right? You complete the situation. He unlawfully murdered somebody. Okay, you get him murdered, right? You get him arrested or whatever the case is, and then the court murders him, right? Someone is offering to an idol, you kill the person, right? And then now everything is back to the way it should be. It's shelema now. So you're right. Shelem, it's a goodwill offering, right? Meaning for the community, for the family. This is the offering that everybody gets to eat some of, right? The chata'at, appear the purification offering, only the kohen eats, only the priest eats, right? The shelam of the olah, where was it? Maybe previous page. The olah, the holy burnt offering, nobody eats. Oh, here it is. Only Hashem gets some of this. The olah, it all goes up to Hashem, right? So they're kind of, in a way, it's like the more holy the offering, the less that everybody else gets some, right? So the olah is the most sacred offering. It's all given to God. Then you have the chata'at, all right? And you might have an asham, right? And then shelem, this is from a class of offerings that we call nedivim. They're like free will offerings, right? You can do it just because you feel like it. Once you don't give them until you're purified, until you've extricated the sin from your life. Once the sin is gone, now you can talk about doing this kind of thing, this relationship with God, right? If you think about it, even in normal relationships, it's kind of an affront. If you know somebody, let's say you've wronged someone in a very, very bad way, and they know that you've really wronged them in a bad way, okay? We'll just make it extreme. Say that somebody cheated with someone else's significant other, all right? And the person knows. And then they have a birthday, and you give that person a birthday gift, the person whom you wronged. But you haven't made the situation right, okay? So it's like, just to make it obvious, it's really gross like that, a really bad situation. It's worse to give the gift than to not give the gift, isn't it? Right? So it's similar as we approach Hashem, as we present, as we hakrev, as we makrivim, we bring near our offerings to Him at His mizbeach. We want to approach in stages, right? So you go through teshuvah, you make the chata'at offering, right? You extricate the sin from your life, you plead the blood of the Mashiach, etc., etc., etc. And then when things are good, when things are going well, you make your nedivim, your free will offerings, your shelamim, right? Your shelamim. Sorry, my computer's frozen, so the laser's not moving. You make your shelamim offerings, and these are what anyone can eat of. So the offerer would bring the beast or beasts, depending on if it's more than one offering, and the Kohen would offer it and cook it up, and then they could eat some together there with the Kohen. So it's interesting. So the ministers with the laity in a way, right? So they're doing it together. They're enjoying this together. But then whatever's left over, the offerer could take home with them from the shelamim. They could take home as long as they consumed it within a set period of time. It was fine. Otherwise, it became it's not kosher anymore, right? It's considered not kosher. So this usually before the sun goes down the next day. They have until that long to consume it, right? So that was the shelamim. Everyone is benefiting, right? The family, they could give some to their friends. We see a perversion of this in Mishlei, in the book of Proverbs, about the Isha Zara, right? The wayward woman, the wayward wife, rather, right? And she's trying to induce the young lad, the naive lad, to come with her, right? The speaker of Mishlei, he's watching this happen, right? And she says, "Hay- Hayom shilamti et nadarai. Today I completed my vows, right? And then she talks about how this is hinting that there's food available. I got meat. We can eat meat. Blah blah. Anyway, it goes on. The perversion of it goes on and on. But that is all related to shelamim, the concept of shelamim. Okay. Lizboach, to sacrifice lifnei Adonai, before Adonai. Umincha belula vashamen. And the mincha. What's a mincha? What's a mincha?
Grain offering. Grain
That-
offering.
Okay, that's correct. It's a grain offering. Some will translate this as cereal offering, which might not be so good in modern English because it might make people think of Cheerios or Rice Krispies or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's a grain offering. The root is interesting from this word. The nuance is that it's from nacha. Nacha is it's something that's carried, right? So the idea is you're carrying this, right? So this could be like the result from the omer, like we're counting the omer now, right? So it could be, this could all be forms of the mincha, right? Today we have the mincha prayer, which is like the afternoon prayer. It's at the time of the mincha, okay? Balula, you probably don't know this. Balal is to mix, right? Like at Bavel, the languages were balulim there, they were mixed. Vashaman. Okay, I'm going to ask a trick question. What is shaman? It's a trick question.
Is it oil?
Yes, you're right. It is oil, but the word is actually shemen. Shemen. Why is it pointed shaman here? This is kind of an advanced question, you guys. We've touched on it, but we never taught it in class.
Ointment?
Yeah, shemen is oil. Usually shemen is even short for shemen zayit, olive oil, right? So, but why is it pointed shaman here? Shaman instead of shemen. The word is shemen.
Rabbi,
Yes,
is it not the what do you call the tone syllable?
it is. It is. But you can see this word in other places and sentences where it's shemen. It's still the tone syllables accented, but you're getting close. It is related to this.
The article in the.
Good guess. Good guess. That's not what's happening. That's not what happened. Not what happened. Okay, maybe you don't remember. Again, this was just something in passing I mentioned a couple times. You guys probably don't remember. So there's an maybe it was Esau asked about this one time in class. So he's not in our class, but maybe he was in the. Oh, I think he was in Josh. He asked about it. Okay, so
Or Rabbi, is it fatness? Is it fat?
okay, you're talking about the meaning of the word. Yeah, you can have that interpretation. Yeah, the meaning of the word can. Oil and fat are related, but that's not what I'm getting at. I'm asking about the spelling. Why is it spelled with the comments under the sheen instead of a segol? This is a segulate word. Shemen is the correct word, right? And you can say bashemen with the oil or in the oil or with that fatty part of the liquid. You can say that. It can even mean ash, right? If you're talking about meanings, the ash that's from the oil and from the fat. But the reason this is pointed, the segol lengthens to a comments, is a phenomenon called pause. This word is in pause, P-A-U-S-E, like you press pause on a player, or this is the pausal form. So it's interesting. There's kind of a lost art to reading in the ancient text, the way that something like this would be read, other than also the concepts like wishul, ayu, instead of all that stuff, you would read it just as each word has a tone syllable. Each clause has a tone word, the word that received the stress when reading it. This was useful in memorizing the text as well. There's lots of tricks that you do when you can't afford a Bible, right? I mean, most people had no Bibles back then, but they would memorize large chunks of text. And so having a tone word is very helpful. So, for example, originally, this would have been read something like, hold on, my mouse is frozen. Come on. I want you to be able to follow. Computers think about something. Oh, there we go. Can you see the hourglass at least? The laser pointer is separate from our hourglass. I don't know what happened. Okay. Ki hayom Adonai nira alechem. You see? I mean, I exaggerated it, but it received extra stress for some reason, these words that are in pause. And so when you see a word that's not spelled the way you expect it, that's probably what's happening. Take a look to see if it's got the etnachta under it, right? Or the suluk, which comes right before the sof pasuk. If it's got either of those accents, probably the vowel is lengthened. It doesn't have to be, but it might be. Okay? Again, you don't have to know this. This is just
What,
yes.
Rabbi, why are there two dagesh in two dagesh?
In which word?
Bashamen.
Only one dagesh. There's just
There are only one.
just one. It's in the sheen. You're not talking about the dot up here, are you? This dot up here?
Hmm.
There should just be one dagesh. Vashaman in the sheen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's there.
Bashamen.
It's there because
Bashamen.
yeah, it's there because of the article, right? Shah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Bashamen.
Yep. Ki hayom. Okay, in this case, it's not in oil. It's probably with oil, right? The bait. We call this the accusative of means. You haven't learned that yet. That's fine. Or some languages call the instrumental case. It's signifying with. Okay, I got to mute somebody there. Sorry. Street noise. Okay. Ki hayom Adonai nir'ah alechem. Okay. Ki hayom, what's that mean? Ki hayom.
For the day or for today.
Today.
Better.
Today, Rabbi.
Good, good.
For today.
Yep, for today, that's right.
For today.
For today, Adonai nir'ah alechem. What's this mean?
Adonai.
Adonai nir'ah alechem.
Appear. Adonai appear. Will appear. Ra'a.
Okay,
Rabbi.
okay, okay.
PIEL.
Will Rabbi, maybe nifal will be seen.
Yes,
Will be seen.
yes, you're both right.
Will be seen.
You're both right, but it's interesting that you're both putting in the future. That's correct to put in the future, but you shouldn't know that from the grammar. Just looking at the Hebrew here, you should know will appear. Maybe you're used to the story or something, right? Because look, this is a nifal binyan, and you're right. It does mean literally to be seen, right? Ra'ah is to see. The noon tells us it's nifal, so it's passive. So to be seen, right? But look, it's the perfect, right? It's perfect, isn't it? Perfect. And what does perfect usually translate into? Is it future or past, usually? Anybody? The perfect?
Future.
Nope.
Will appear.
The perfect does not usually mean future. It's usually the past, right? It's usually the past. But as I've been driving home, in the biblical Hebrew, time does not work the way that it does in modern Hebrew, which has been kind of bastardized by European languages. Indo-European languages, been influenced, right? In the Bible, time is different. Something is either sealed or it's unsealed, right? It's either complete or incomplete. In the manifestations of God or judgments of God, which are unchangeable, or there's some other things like this, that we actually have an advanced grammatical term known as the prophetical perfect, right? So a prophet is saying something, it's going to happen, it's unchangeable, we use the perfect, it's sealed, right? Which looks like past tense to an Israeli, like an Israeli chilonim, like someone who's secular, right? Or a Hebrew Christian who doesn't really know, right, the biblical Hebrew, something like this. They're going to think it means past. So if you just look at this on the surface, it looks like, for today Adonai appeared alechem unto you all, right? Because it's perfect. But you were right, the two of you, your instincts were right, both of you, when you said will be seen or will appear. That is actually the correct way to translate it. And I'm assuming it's just because you've read it many times in the past, and so you knew, or you could feel from the context it's right. So this is actually an interesting thing. What's happening here? So I'm trying to get my note to come up. Come on. This is actually the Jusav form of the Nifal perfect here, right? It's a Jusav, which it's okay. You wouldn't have recognized this since it's in the perfect, right? So here's my note. Note the perfect form should be translated as English future. Oh, okay. So this is really bizarre that it's here. But if you check Septuagint, if you check other ancient versions, they translate it as future. right? And so what's happening is an example of the prophetic perfect, if you just think about it that way, right? Adonai is about to show up. Adonai knows that you're not going to do anything within the next hour or two to mess this up. He's coming. He will be seen by you. So it's in the perfect, you see? So you have to be careful. Don't ever assume that perfect is
Yeah,
past. You see?
Rabbi.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I forgot. Yes, this is perfect form.
Yeah.
This is a perfect form. Sorry, short of vocabulary. It should be appeared. Yes.
Yeah, no problem.
Appeared. And thank you.
No problem. But you translated correctly. Your instinct was right. Still correct. Okay. Any questions on that? You guys got that? All right. Let's continue. Okay. Verse 5. Vayikechuhu et asher tziva Moshe el panei ohel moed. Okay. What's vayikechu? Vayikechu. What's that?
From Lakak.
Yeah, that's right. So yikechu.
And you will take.
Not you. It's
And you will take.
third person. Third person.
They.
Third person.
Yeah.
And
They took.
Yes. Good. Sister, how did you know it's took? That's correct. How did you know it's took? Past tense. How did you do past tense?
Because of the verb patak.
See what she's saying?
Basically it's from imperfect.
of consecutive.
Yod,
Yes.
yod and vav,
Tama.
and then with appearance of vav in front. Thank you.
Exactly. Very good. Yep. So vav consecutive, vav conversive, whatever you want to call this. So yikechu is imperfect, which usually is present or future for us, right? Usually it's an incomplete action, and then the vav swaps it to make it into perfect, right? So yikechu is they took. Sorry, my computer's frozen again. Okay. When they take et asher tziva, that which tziva Moshe had commanded, el panei ohel. They took it el panei ohel unto before the ohel moed. What's the ohel moed? Ohel moed.
Tent of meeting.
Right.
Of the meeting.
That's right. The tent of meeting. Very good. Okay. Where the Shekhinah would meet with them, right? Notice something interesting about the ohel moed. The name itself, moed. It's the same as the moedim. Moed. The verb itself, the adjective itself actually implies a temporal meeting, right? An appointed time. It would not be incorrect to translate this the tent of appointed time, right? So it's very interesting. And this gives us, I think, a little theological hint about Hashem's kedusha, His holiness, being that there's this concept of the marriage between space and people and time, right? That those three things come together. I read one commentator who called. I listened to him. I think it's Rabbi Richmond from the Temple Institute in Jerusalem, but I could be wrong. I think he called the Shabbat Hashem's temporal temple. His temple in time is the Shabbat, right? So, and also you could add to that also the Moedim, right? The appointed festivals, the appointed seasons, etc., etc. And so it's interesting that here we have the Ohel Moed. It's the tent of meeting, that's true, but it also has this nuance about meeting Hashem in the right time, the times that He chooses. Vayikrovu kol ha'edah v'ya'amadu lifnei Adonai. So what does this mean? Vayikrovu kol ha'edah. What's that first part mean? Those three words. Anybody?
Rabbi, and all the
Draw
congregation
near.
Yes.
will draw near.
Yes.
Draw near
Yes.
all the congregation.
Yep. Better like Kuyase to say all the congregation first. Right. Good. Because this is the subject, right? So, and all the congregation approached, right? They all drew near. We have the same thing happening with the Vav conversive. That's why. Yikravu, they will approach, right? Vaikravu, and they approached, right? They drew near. Like you said, those are both fine. Okay, and then the last part, V'ya'amadu lifnei Adonai. Okay, what's that mean?
They stood
And
before the Lord.
and they will stood.
Not
They
will.
stood.
Not will.
Stood.
Yeah, they stood. That's right. And they stood before Adonai.
And stood.
Yeah.
Stood.
Yeah, that's right.
Stood.
In the typical synagogue, when you go inside, there's the bima in the sanctuary, right? There's the bima where it's an elevated platform, usually, where it has a table that the Torah scroll can be put on, a very big table. Usually it's kind of at an angle. And in the back, what holds the Torah, or Torah, depending on how many Torah scrolls they have, there's the aron, the ark, just means like the box, the chest, right? And on top, it says, usually in granite or something like this, it says in Hebrew, Dami lifnei ata omed, know before whom you are standing, right? And so that's the same verb here. V'ya'amadu lifnei Adonai, and they stood before Adonai. So this standing before him, this actually speaks volumes theologically, right? When someone is standing before the Lord, or when they walk before the Lord, it's even more, right? Standing before him, it signifies obedience. For the one, it's obedience. For two, it signifies that they're ready. They've prepared themselves for this moment. You cannot skip these steps. You cannot jump forward. You're outblown sinner, right? You're in a state of sin, right? You're doing bad things, then you're standing before the Lord. No, it's deadly for you if you do that, right? I mean, you generally, not any of you listening right now. Instead, there has to first be the chata'at, right? The purification offering, right? There needs to be olim. There needs to be, it depends on what's happened, right? Maybe you have an ashan, right? Like a guilt offering needs to happen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's this improving the relationship. Once things are okay, you're improving it. You're making goodwill offerings. You're showing your gratitude, or a todah offering, right? That's another type of nediva, another type of free will offerings. The todah, the thanksgiving offering to Hashem, right? So you're showing them, look, I acknowledge you. I understand that everything that is good is in my life is from you. And only someone who is at that stage is qualified to la'amod lifnei Adonai, to stand before Adonai. See? All right. So now we need to make a decision. Let's see. We're about 46 minutes in, and we can do a couple different things. This is kind of an ad hoc thing we decided to do today anyway. So it's already 6:30. I think maybe this is a good point to take a break. It's up to you guys. I have 2 more slides, but it could make it really long. You guys want to just stop now, and then I can just record the others on my own and upload them separately. This could be part A of the first aliya, or if you want to continue on, do another slide. It's up to you. Let me know. I'm thinking maybe this is a good mental point for you. Almost 50 minutes in.
You can stay. I don't know about the others.
Okay.
Will it take more than 30 minutes? No.
Yes. We've done 47 for the first slide only. Yeah, the other slides. I have 2 more slides.
There's not the others.
I have 2 more slides. Yeah.
Because some might be preparing dinner.
Yeah,
I don't know the others.
that's my concern. I don't want to imposition anybody who's here.
Yeah.
Oh, also Naomi wrote something. Let me
That's
read her
right.
comment. Maybe we'll read her comment and maybe we'll go ahead and stop for now then. Okay, so Naomi, about the oil used for the temple of Mishkan offerings comes from the first press of the best olives, because you can press olives 3 times to get oil. The first press is for the temple, the second press is oil that's for consumption, and the third press is used for the lamps, the menorot that are in the menorah. So there is oil from olives, but the oil for the temple Mishkan is different from the oil used for regular consumption. Thank you for that interesting comment, Naomi. True. Also, we're also told in the Talmud that there's an opinion that the specific shemen that was used for the menorah lamps, that it was not even pressed. This is just an opinion, right? So we're not saying that's necessarily true. We know for sure that it was forbidden to grind it, right? Like in a mortar, you could not make that special super tahor, pure olive oil that way. But some of the sages, they say that actually the oil that was used in the menorah, it was only oil where the olive oils were on the top of the tree, the olives were on the top of the tree, and the sun would beat down on them and make them so big that the oil would burst out in and of itself. It'd start to come out by itself. And that was the oil that you could use in the menorah lamps themselves, only that. And I'm a little skeptical of that opinion, but we find that there's a records of times in history when there was not enough oil, not only with the whole Hanukkah Maccabees thing, but there's other times when there wasn't enough oil for the menorah. And so it makes some sense that maybe really it was that hard to get. You couldn't get it just from pushing, even the first time on the on the press. But very interesting comment. Thank you for that, Naomi. Okay, anybody else have anything else before we end our first aliya for today? You guys who want to stay, you can stick around and talk some other grammar stuff or whatever.
Rabbi,
Yes.
regarding the word vaya amdu,
Yes.
is it that the same word to the pillar of cloud or pillar of fire?
Very nice question.
I read about
That's a very nice
Hamud
question.
Ha'es,
So this,
Hamud Ha'es.
morphologically, they're related, okay? Amud, this actually shows up in two forms. You can see amud or amuda, amuda with chata patach under the ayin. And amud is a pillar. It means pillar. Okay? It's a noun, right? It's a thing. You could have a house with an amud in the front or amudim, right? So the word is just formed from the verb. Amad is something that goes up, and a pillar is something that goes up to, right? Like a Roman colonnade or something like this. So yeah, that's the relation. That's the relation.
Toda.
You're
Toda.
welcome. Yep, you're welcome. Any other questions or comments before we end? Well, I can't believe we did 50 minutes so fast. All right, great. So you guys, if you're going to stay and study or whatever, maybe I'll leave someone in charge with the microphone. And with the, if you want to stay here and go to a meeting, or if you want to go your other way, that's okay too. So I'll stop the recording. Okay. You guys have a great study session.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Okay, who should I make organizer
Thank you,
here?
Rab.
You're welcome. I'm going to make Bessie the organizer. Bessie, you can always make someone else the organizer if you need to, okay? Just so if you guys want to stay here and talk or whatever, you can. All right, shalom, shalom.